Welcome back to Liquid Pop. This week we're talking about unnecessary prequels, big dumb monster movies, and the weird world of WandaVision. One of the staples of nerd culture is the who would win in a fight between these fictional characters debate. Superman versus Goku, Thanos versus Darkseid, but in the monster world, these battles have been happening on screen for years. But with the release of Godzilla vs. Kong right around the corner and the recent teaser trailer, the internet and marketing campaign have been asking the question, who will win this epic battle where humans are most certainly the losers? I'm personally not super excited for this movie, but a part of me has to root for Kong taking out the giant lizard. Make sure to let me know down below if you're Team Godzilla or Team King Kong and why. And if you already felt that Hollywood was unwilling to explore new ideas, do I have the nail in the coffin for you with the announcement of the Willy Wonka prequel. Yes, that's right. An origin story for everyone's favorite zany chocolatier is set to release in 2023, with current casting rumors pointing to either Timothée Chalamet or Tom Holland in the titular role. The only reason why I have a shred of hope for this movie is because the guy that made Paddington is set to direct and co-write it, but it still begs the question, why? Maybe I'm crazy and this will be an instant classic, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And in some Marvel news, Thor Love and Thunder has officially began filming down in Australia, with Taika Waititi reprising his role as director and co-writer. And while we don't know much about the plot, we do know that the story will be adapted from a Mighty Thor storyline in which Jane Foster gets Thor's powers, with Christian Bale featuring as Gore the God Butcher. This movie will also include the Guardians of the Galaxy to some capacity, which shouldn't be a major surprise seeing as Thor joined up with them at the end of Avengers Endgame. And I, for one, am super excited to see my favorite ragtag group of space heroes reunited on the big screen. And moving on to something I'm extremely excited for, we got the official casting announcements for the Umbrella Academy Season 3. Following Season 2's tumultuous conclusion and time travel disaster, the gang was left with the existence of the Sparrow Academy. And without going into too many spoilers, the Sparrow Academy will be made up of returning cast member Justin H. Min as Ben, or Sparrow number 2, Justin Cornwell as Marcus, or number 1, Brittany Oldford as Faye, or number 3, Jake Epstein, who I know from his humble Degrassi origins, as Alfonso, or number 4, Genesis Rodriguez as Sloane, or number 5, Cassie David as Jamie, or number 6, and my personal favorite, existential dread-inducing Psychronium Cube, aka Christopher, or number 7. This show is nothing if not consistent in its weirdness, and I appreciate that. And the wait is over. We can finally talk about WandaVision in this new segment that's as topical as it is creatively named. AmandaVision is the name of the segment where we recap the WandaVision episodes and talk about what we like with different guests, and I figured what better way to start it off than by having another Amanda on the show with me.
Hi, I'm other Amanda, also known as Swell or Swell Entertainment.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here to talk about WandaVision, but just to get into the specifics, WandaVision is the first new Marvel release since Spider-Man Far From Home back in 2019. The series starts with Wanda and Vision living a classic suburban life shown through the lens of a different sitcom in every era, laugh tracks and all, but as the episodes continue, it becomes more and more obvious that not everything is as it seems as the cracks start to form in the idealized world. So we have 3 episodes up right now, so if you're not caught up and you want to avoid spoilers, this is probably where you should hop off by checking the timestamps below. Let's get into it. So that first episode probably threw some people off because it was really just this like 50s sitcom almost the entire way through. They have to have Vision's boss over for a dinner, but Wanda thinks it's for their anniversary. So there's all these like classic sitcom hijinks until things get like really weird and it kind of snaps for a minute. So what were some of your thoughts on that first episode?
So I thought it was interesting because like it really seems like they, within the concept of the sitcom, are starting with the audience because they don't know what the date on the calendar is. Neither of them know. They know basically as much as the audience does. So I thought from one perspective that was interesting because it does seem like, oh, this is the start of this delusion or this universe, whatever it is, and we are learning about it as they are, which I did like as a concept. Even that whole episode, it's just like, Are they in on the joke, or like who knows what at that same time? Because we know nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it doesn't really start to crack until Vision's boss starts to choke at the table, and then everyone just kind of starts like saying, stop it, and then eventually Wanda kind of breaks it herself by being like, Vision, help him. And then it kind of pulls away to somebody watching the episode kind of play out. It looks like somebody's watching this whole thing happening on a TV while taking notes. I know there's a couple theories as to who that person might be.
I know who I hope it is.
I was gonna say, because I'm pretty sure you're a big fan of this person, so who do you think it is?
Okay, so the rumor is, or the fan belief is, that this is Darcy Lewis,
Yes.
who was Jane Foster's intern in the first 2 Thor movies.
Yes.
And then neither of them were in Thor Ragnarok. But Darcy is confirmed and is in some of the promotional photos. She's not in everything. She hasn't been in more than, I think, 2 frames of any of the trailers.
Yeah.
But the belief is that she is now Dr. Darcy Lewis and that she is working with Sword. I'm jumping ahead now.
That's okay.
That's the belief that it's her.
That's the belief. I agree. I like that theory, and I'm totally down for that. I love Kat Dennings, so I'm so glad that they're bringing her back, like characters that we thought were long gone because like the show just pivoted in a weird direction. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, talking about Sword, when we jump into the second episode where we'll go to, it's same thing. We're just kind of jumping ahead a little bit in the timeline. We're in like a 60s sitcom style thing with some like bewitched feels. Everything at this point is still in black and white, and she finds a perfectly colored helicopter that is all Iron Man colors but has the Sword logo on it. Sword is like an anti-terrorist organization. It tends to be like the space, usually it's the space version of S.H.I.E.L.D. So what do you kind of think the direction's going with there? Because like you don't really even have time to think about the fact that you just see this Sword logo and most people aren't going to know what it is.
Well, my initial thoughts, at least for this episode, I think we really get a better sense of what's going on for Wanda in this sense. She may be in a state where she is not fully in control, but then we are also shown elements of things she's changing. In a callback to episode 1, when she tells Vision to help the boss, yeah. Vision was also frozen and kind of in like a loop like the boss's wife was, until Wanda said, you need to help him. And so it seems like she is both out of control but also in control of the universe that we are seeing. Mm-hmm. And so the addition of the helicopter was kind of like just, I don't know, another indication of an outside influence, or at least something trying to break through, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I definitely do too, because I know some people are kind of thrown off by the sitcom thing and it just doesn't interest them, but as you're watching and picking up those little indications that as every episode keeps going, they break through even more earlier and earlier in the episodes. So I know this one for sure. My thought is like, I think she's just deluding herself. It's hard to say if somebody else is kind of controlling her in some way to do this, or if this is just something she's done to protect her mind in some way, because I think Vision's very much dead. This is just her like mental manifestation of him. But then there's like a pretty significant crack where it seems like someone's kind of interrogating her, and she starts saying things like, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not trying to do anything. When she's talking to that planner who ends up cutting her hand. And again, when she cuts her hand, you can see the red, you can see the color. And then they've been talking about potentially having kids and moving their life. And then suddenly she's like 6 months pregnant. So like, it's clear.
My biggest fear.
Yeah, it's same. Terrifying.
We're just breaching this topic. Suddenly you are now 6 months pregnant.
Worst. Horrible. Terrible. And then they again hear the same noise that they've been hearing for a while throughout the entire episode, and they go outside, and it's like a beekeeper with the Sword logo coming out of the drains. There's a couple options of who that could be, either AIM or AIM. Some people are like, well, no, they use bees to detect bombs, so it could be them looking for like bombs. There's a bunch of weird theories going around for that. But when Wanda sees this person crawling out of the manhole, she just says no. And everything just rewinds. So she wants to be in the delusion, whether she knows it's like healthy or not.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that she knew that this was just something encroaching onto her perfect fantasy, or do you think that she knew who the possible beekeeper was?
That's what I don't know. For me, like my initial thought was that it was just she knows that this is something kind of pushing in on her perfect idealized life, which is why this is going through these sitcoms of simpler times, basically. But at the same time, it would be like he looked pretty sinister. Like when he turns around, it's like a pretty sinister look. So like if there's like the slight chance that she might know who the person is, but I do think she's just trying to ignore things, because again, like the radio earlier on when it started snapping the first time, you can hear a voice saying like, Wanda, who's doing this to you? So it's either somebody is kind of controlling this to a certain extent, or they're not aware that she's just doing this to herself, because she has these like very powerful abilities that haven't been fully explored yet. Because like Wanda's actually like a really cool, really deep character that they legally weren't able to really look into a lot of her background stuff because they didn't have the rights to any of the X-Men stuff, but they do now. So I'm really interested to see how they introduce that. And then getting into episode 3 is where stuff like really starts to amp up. We get mentions of Pietro.
Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Since the first mention since flipping Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, which was what, 2015, I think, for Age of Ultron? Yeah. Either way. So yeah, like 6 years, basically, 5.5 years. First mention of Pietro, her brother, her twin brother, who passed away, and it gets brought up because she was spontaneously 6 months pregnant at the end of the last episode. We're now we're in color now, in the 70s, and she gives birth to 2 babies. And those are Tommy and Billy. So there's a lot of rumors or theories that that'll kind of birth off like the Young Avengers from them, with I think Ironheart is kind of the going theory of what they're going to be doing with them. But again, like, are these characters real right now? Is she going to do the thing where she manifests them and then they become real because she could theoretically, like, do you have a...
well, I think that what I liked also I like this episode better than the first 2, for
Absolutely.
one, mainly because it gave us so much more to like dive into. The first 2, like, I debated talking about, but there was just not enough to sink my teeth into. I was like, there's nothing, it's like, okay, I'm like intrigued, I'm open-minded, but there's not much here for me to definitively say, this is a good show, this is a bad show, this is a good stepping point. Like, there was not enough. This episode, I think, gave us so much more and justified this show's existence, just in the fact of how casually they started throwing out Wanda playing with her abilities more, including, I think, the indication of playing with what's reality and what's not is when she hangs up the like baby mobile with the butterflies, and then she's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, and suddenly the butterflies are real.
Yes.
You know, and then she has to let them out, and it's like, oh, is this like an indication that everything that she's messing with in her own reality right now is going to become real? And yeah, I just think that the concept of, you know, her powers being like affected by her pregnancy and also her going into labor. One, I did not think the reveal at the end of the episode was going to go how I thought it was going to go. I was expecting it to be a complete accident, and it wasn't.
It was not. In the previous episode, someone named Geraldine is introduced, but just based on all the promotional material, we know that this is Monica Rambeau. This is the episode where people start acting the weirdest, like somebody's like trimming the hedges, but then he starts going through the wall and he just doesn't seem to care about it. And then characters are having conversations about like, you know, they start pointing out, no, like Geraldine doesn't have a home. Like she's here for a reason, and they never actually say what the reason is. And that's another character that we haven't touched on yet, is this Agnes character who is pretty much fan theoried to be Agatha Harkness, who is someone who's been kind of very important in a lot of different Wanda stories. She was even included in X-Men Evolution, which was an animated series. So she's someone who can sometimes be an ally to Wanda, but other times be not so much of one, trying to kind of keep things in place. So it does seem like if you kind of pay attention to the way she says certain things and certain lines that she puts out there, I feel like she does have way more involvement in some of the stuff going on, and potentially not in a positive way, because I think she instigated the situation that got Monica kind of bopped out. So basically what happens is that she sees the twins and she just mentions that she was a twin and that her brother's name was Pietro. And then Monica...
She sings a little lullaby, which was the first time I think we've heard her accent this entire show, too.
Yeah, they've been dropping the accent pretty progressively since Infinity War. And I think it was just because, I don't know if it's because people were like just annoyed by it or something.
Well, it's like they spend so much money on these movies, they can't afford a dialect coach for Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah, apparently. So she starts singing this lullaby and it's beautiful. And then, you know, Geraldine / Monica slips, your brother was killed by Ultron. And then that's when Wanda like starts like really kind of losing it. and kind of pushing her on it, and Geraldine tries to snap back into it. I know there's two theories here, that she was in there specifically to try to figure out what was going on, but then also becomes caught up in the illusion because Wanda can kind of control all the people that are in there as well. So she kind of loses control over what her mission was and then slips, is kind of what I'm hearing people say there. But then Wanda actually bops her out of the illusion, and she just kind of flies onto the sword base, and she just, all of the soldiers kind of like swarm in on her. So it just shows like how much control is actually going on here.
Yeah. And I think what was a really good, I think what I loved most about episode 3 is not only did it give us a lot, but it made me so uncomfortable because it's so uneasy in what they are showing us. But then the entire time they have this really peppy 70s music. Yeah. They have all these laugh tracks, but it's just punctuated with these really like awkward, dark, like glitches almost in this like illusion that we have. And then also what I thought was interesting in this episode too is the set design, that this is clearly like, oh no, it's Wanda's house and then everything else is fake.
Yeah.
Which was so much more apparent in this episode, and I was like, hopefully that's an indicator that we're gonna get, you know, closer and closer to like the reveal of finding out more of how this is going on, because the facade is just slowly becoming more and more apparent, not just to Vision, because we're just slowly seeing him realizing something is not right. And I think this is the first episode where it ends with Vision still believing something is not right, because he knows Geraldine was in the house and now she's not. Yeah. And Wanda's just smiling because they have 2 beautiful babies now. Yeah. And I'm horrified.
Yeah, because he tries to say like, don't you feel that something's not quite right here? And then she literally just glitches him back. Try again, sweetie. We didn't like that ending. Go again. And that's what happens. And even the doctor, when he's talking to the doctor earlier, she's like, aren't you going to be late for your vacation? He's like, oh, you know, small towns, you can't ever really get out of them, you know, something like that. So it's just these little lines where it's this, you have this like suburban fantasy, but like under the cracks, it's just horrifying. And I'm so excited to see it kind of push further into that direction. So I'm really interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see next episode, because, you know, we ended the episode showing what looks like could be Sword, or at least Monica being yeeted out of the universe into a whole new universe. And so now it's like, I think we're really getting into like the multiverse within the Marvel new cinematic universe with this new phase here. And, you know, we're going to see hopefully more of what's going on outside of this facade. So I'm excited for episode 4.
Very excited. Very excited to see where they go from here, because this is supposed to kind of kick off what happens in the Doctor Strange sequel and the next Spider-Man movie, and those already have so many big stories and rumors kind of floating around them. So to know that this is really kicking off what goes on in a lot of those should be enough to keep people pretty excited. And I think we're finally really getting into the kind of like the meat of the story. So I'm pretty excited. But thank you so much for coming on to talk about the show and, you know, how you think it's going and the direction of everything. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you and what your channel's about?
Yes, so thank you for having me. I run the channel Swell Entertainment here on YouTube. I do commentary on media and products, so come check me out.
So that is going to do it for this week's episode of Liquid Pop. Make sure to let me know what you guys have been thinking of WandaVision, what you're excited for in 2021, and what you've been enjoying the most so far. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and smash that notification bell with the power of Thor's hammer. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Yeah. Okay. I'm probably the odd one out in that I don't care about this movie at all, but I kind of... Sorry, let me do that again. Pardon me. Okay. Look, what did I say? Actually, make and hit that notification bell with the power of Thor's hammer.